Have you ever moved to another country and regretted it? It happens more often than you think. Most of the time it's people that relocate for work, and of them, polls show about 75% of the time the country isn't the worker's first choice. Like our other videos on this subject, we ran a survey asking people if they had moved to another country in the last decade. What country was it? Do you regret it? And why? And that's what we're looking at today. Now before we get started, I want to help you out so you don't have to type out a weird question. No, I didn't forget a country. Whatever country you think is missing wasn't brought up enough in the survey results. Also, not many people regret moving to Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, North Korea, and any other country in that vein because not many people moved to those countries. In this video, I will list which countries showed up the most in our survey and the reasons most often given. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Canada. That's right, the Great White North shows up at number 10. A lot of people move up to Canada. Canada's got some hurdles you gotta jump through to either work there or move there. Become a citizen, that's kind of hard and can take a couple years, and you might need a lawyer at some point. But yeah, that one, there's some hurdles to get through, but a lot of people still move to Canada for work and different things like that. My very first girlfriend from high school, I was a freshman in high school, she lives there now. I think her husband may have been a Canadian citizen before, but yeah, I've known a few people that move up there and they all stayed there, so I find this one a little strange. Just from my own personal experience, the people I know that have moved there love the country. But the reasons most often given to why people regret moving there, it was more expensive than they thought it was going to be, and it was colder than they thought it was going to be. Those aren't terrible reasons. I mean, that's not bad. Cold and a little expensive. It's better than like everyone's getting murdered every week. Number 9, the United Kingdom. Now this one had a lot of the same reasons people listed for Canada, like it's damp, cold, and a lot of gray days. They also said it was expensive, and if you wanted to see a doctor, sometimes it was an all-day affair if you could actually get an appointment. United Kingdom has a lot of history and a lot of things to do and see. It's just you're doing them under drizzle and gray skies most of the time. If you get outside the cities, which a lot of people when they visit the United Kingdom, they don't do it as often as they should, but that is some beautiful land. Beautiful country. Other complaints the people had that there's not enough work-life balance, which usually you expect to find that in some other countries that are on this list, but I guess, yeah, a lot of people feel they don't have a good enough work-life balance. They said if you're in a management position in the UK, it really sucks. Now, oddly, that one came up a few times. That was like a main thing, that the work-life balance in the United Kingdom sucks. I've never worked in the UK, so I did a little research, and yeah, a lot of things pop up. They say that's a problem. One guy ranted and raved about how they have a tax or a fee you have to pay every month or something for your television. Maybe it's every year. But anyway, he was saying there's a fee. Like if you have a television or something, they want a check from you every single year, every single month, something like that, just to own a television. Number 8, Brazil. This one came up a lot, which kind of surprised me because the people I know that have moved down to Brazil, usually it's for like 6 months, 9 months, jiu-jitsu guys and stuff. They do that a lot. You're training jiu-jitsu in Southern California or something like that, and then you go down for 6 months to Brazil to train at one of those places. Anyway, they all seem to like it, but they all did say the same thing that showed up on the reasons people regretted moving there. It's dangerous. They say there's a lot of crime in the cities, and the cities actually should be avoided, or at least some of the bigger ones. I mean, but beautiful people, beautiful beaches. I just guess there's parts of their cities you got to really avoid. But what was funny is it was always an answer like this. The people are great, the women are beautiful, the beaches are great, the food's great, you just might get killed. Number 7, France. Who saw this one coming? France has always seemed like a nice place to live. Everyone always talks about how beautiful the place is and how historic, and they went to the wine country. They all had glowing reviews about most of France, and the one thing that popped up on the reasons they regret it, and I think this comes from a lot of North Americans that move there, is the locals don't like you. Especially in the cities. That's what everyone was saying. That was actually said quite often. One person said that if a French person is nice to you while you're visiting France or living in France, it's because they work in the hospitality industry like a tour guide, and they're trained to do that. And it's really just an act. They're not your friend. A few other people said that Paris is not like it is in the pictures. It's not that well maintained. Number 6, China. Now, almost all the answers for this one seem to be coming from people from the United States or Canada, and they said that the Chinese people ignore you, like you're a stray dog that's wandering through the street. They just ignore that you're there. One guy said if you ask a Chinese person a simple question and they answer you in Chinese, and it's an answer that maybe should have taken 3 words in English, and they've been droning on with an answer for like 30 seconds, they're not trying to answer you, they're insulting you. One guy said the only time you get a Chinese person to smile at you as an American is when you go into one of their restaurants to buy some food. And he said they're really nice and they seem genuine, he thinks. But the most common theme for people that said they regretted moving to China was they had a hard time fitting in and they didn't feel welcomed. Number 5, Japan. Now, as I went through the reasons why people regretted moving to Japan, I got the vibe that it was basically people that had all moved to Tokyo. All their reasons seemed to center around things that maybe happened in Tokyo or a major city. Smoking in restaurants showed up quite a lot. Apparently that's a big, huge thing, Japan, that everyone just smokes in the restaurants. This is another one that people brought up. There's no work-life balance. If they could get you to work 23 hours a day, 7 days a week, they absolutely would. One guy did mention that it was way worse, let's say 10 years ago, and they started backing off of that a little bit, but the work-life balance still sucks in Japan. Other things that people hated, and that's why they regretted it, the squat toilets. I guess that's you got a bad knee, it's kind of hard to squat, I guess. Everything is individually wrapped, showed up a few times. Like if you buy some corn here in the United States, you can get a whole bunch of them, throw them in a bag, go pay for all 5 at the same time, corn on the cob. They said that if you buy it in Japan, each corn on the cob is like individually wrapped. That one I thought was pretty funny. But work-life balance and the smoking in restaurants seem to be the biggest problems and the biggest reasons people regretted moving to Japan. Number 4, the United States of America. Yes, a lot of people regretted moving to the United States. And now there was a theme for most of them. They moved here for work and they all seemed to think there was a lot of opportunity in the United States, which, if the United States has one thing, it's a lot of opportunity. There were a bunch of reasons why people regretted moving to the United States. Crime and racism showed up an awful lot. About 100 people left comments on why they regretted moving to the United States, and almost all of them had crime or racism in their reason why they regretted moving to the United States. And that's a shame. I'm from the United States, obviously, and it's just sucks that, that's what people think when they come here. And I'm sure if you're living in some other country and you find out that when people come to live there or visit, they feel that everyone's rude to them, I'm sure you're a little, sad that that's how they see your country. And of course, if you're one of the rude people or you're one of the racists in the United States, you're probably just fine with it. Now, to be fair, every country has racism and every country has crime. No one's immune from those things. I just think here in the United States, it's a little more in your face. At least the racism part. There's countries with far worse crime than we have. Number 3, Mexico. This one doesn't surprise me at all. I've been to Mexico more times than I can remember, and it has some problems. It always has. From how dirty some of the border towns are, like Juarez and Tijuana, to having cops shake you down for a tail light that isn't really out. Yeah, that happened to me in Rosarito 3 times. And it doesn't help when the cop's telling you, yeah, as your car moves, the light goes on and off, on and off, on and off. And I'm all, yeah, it's called a blinker. That didn't go over well. I think I had to pay an extra $20 for making that comment. A few people I know from high school have moved down to Mexico and they've lived there for years. They all seem to like it, but the most common theme for people that said they regretted moving down there was the crime and how dirty it was. No place is perfect. It's very, very cheap, so you're going to have some problems. If it didn't have cities that were kind of dirty and you didn't have a lot of crime, it wouldn't be that cheap to live in Mexico. Number 2, Belarus. Who saw this one coming? I had no idea people were moving to Belarus, but apparently they are, and they hate it. Now, I think a lot of Americans had moved there because that seemed to be the vibe of what was going on in the comment section about this one, that if you're not from Belarus and you're not Russian, they don't want you in Belarus. Even if you're working for a tech company or something like that, they'd prefer if you were a remote worker from another country. They don't like you. I saw one report that said 69% of the people in Belarus disapprove of Americans. Interesting thing though, that study found that countries that are struggling economically, like Belarus is, and always has been, they have an unfavorable opinion of the United States. Almost every comment had one of 3 things. You better know Russian, be prepared for long, cold months from November through February. It's very dark and very cold, and it doesn't cost much to live there, so that's a plus. Overall, I found that one very strange. I never think about Belarus. I don't think I've ever known anyone that's moved there. But according to the respondents in the survey, people do. All right, before we get to number 1, a couple things. 2 countries that almost made the list. Number 12 was Germany, and number 11 was Saudi Arabia. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Vietnam. This one is kind of funny because I know a few people that have moved Vietnam because I used to work at Nike. They have a factory there and they would send Nike employees over there to kind of supervise and, different things like that at the Vietnam plants. Things I heard about Vietnam and things in the comment section kind of line up. Everything there seems to be a fraud. If a taxi driver's not ripping you off, your luggage gets stolen at the airport, they have pickpockets, they like to steal your phones, and the Vietnamese pay far less for everything than you will. It's like a 30% discount on everything if you're a Vietnamese person. It's one of those unspoken rules. Here in the United States, if you're McDonald's and they tell the person in front of you it's $5, and then you order the same stuff and they tell you it's like $8, you're probably going to have some questions. Well, that's a common practice in Vietnam. Also, you got to watch out for the streets. I mean, just crossing it or driving on them. It's all dangerous. Now, there's one other thing that was brought up a lot. The food in Vietnam is amazing, and the food's great. They love it, but there's really not a lot of safety and hygiene going on with the making of your food. That's always great. Waiter brings you your food. You see forehead sweat fall into your food, and he still gives it to you. One other thing people brought up a lot were the insects. A lot of people said the insects they have there are pretty much scary. Those are all the reasons people regret moving to Vietnam. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a productive day, and be nice to each other.